Who saw that coming? The last time we checked in with you guys for the election, we didn't know who was going to win. I made the bold prediction that Trump was going to win 4 out of the 7 swing states. And somehow he made me wrong, despite the fact that I'm also right about it. He won all 7 swing states. Moses, are you so very excited that we're talking about politics again?
There was an election recently?
Yes. Justin would know more about it, though.
Yeah. Like I said, I believe in that live stream. I did think he would win, but I did not see him taking all the swing states. That was a bit of a surprise for me.
Pedro Alejandro here, as usual. I was also surprised, and I can't say delightfully so, though it was entertaining, for sure.
It was actually really surprising to me. Like, you guys are normal human beings. So after the live stream,
we try.
Thank you.
You guys went to bed. Meanwhile, I went back home and was just like, well, it's election night. You're going to do what you always do on election night, which is stay up insanely late and see if the results come in, which I did, monitoring maps all goddamn night.
God bless you, Dan.
Sending you guys a text message at 1:30 in the morning once PA was called for Trump, being like, Trump won. As if either one of you, any one of you was going to read it in that moment.
Yeah.
No, it took me a day or two to get to that.
Maybe a week or so.
But it surprised me because he won. It was effectively a landslide. 312 electoral votes against the 226 that Kamala got.
More importantly, I think what I was genuinely surprised by is that he won the popular vote.
Yeah.
Because I thought that he was going to lose that and then win the, because it's usually slanted towards towards Republicans and that they win the election through the Electoral College. But
they
actually
rarely get the popular.
Yeah, they rarely get the popular vote, but he got it.
First time since, what was it, 2004?
I believe so.
George W. Bush's re-election. They got because
which
Trump,
that was in the wake of 9/11. Of course, he got it, and before that, it was George H.W.
Yeah. So that was that threw me off. Like him winning the popular vote. The numbers that we got right now, because they're still counting votes as we record this podcast, 76 million to 73 million, which isn't quite as big of a blowout in the popular vote.
That's a lot of Chinese votes to count.
I mean, now Trump is the president-elect, and first of all, I have some things to say about the way people are reacting to this.
Oh, it's wild.
Like, one, I get that. This is why I think coming from a sports background is important, because I know how to temper my mood. Like, I have been super into Navy football, and I was a Flyers fan at one point.
And you're never disappointed, right?
And I'm never disappointed.
Let's talk about the Dolphins.
And so, therefore, I know how to be disappointed. I'm not like, picking up my phone and shooting myself, like, screaming into the camera.
But you should see the amount of empty wild turkey bottles that are sitting around his recycling.
Yes, I do what every responsible human being does, and I try to drink myself into oblivion. You know this, Pedro. You do this.
I do this.
And you didn't even lose anything.
I'm drinking a coffee right now that's more bourbon than coffee.
That's a lot of 5-cent deposits, though, if you go to Maine.
It's paying for itself in some way, shape, or form.
So the two things that I really, really, really dislike is it's actually on both sides. The Republicans, the conservatives, the people who are just celebrating as if, they did something. Like they won the election. Like, I got it. You voted for the guy, but it was just one vote. There's this new viral thing going on that they're like all like at least singing or like having some sort of viral moment to YMCA
by the village people.
Why YMCA?
I am not looking too far into this because it angers me that they're doing it to begin with.
It's for his mental health.
Yeah. I feel like so I didn't even know about this, but I'm going to take a shot in the dark. I mean, the first thing is that it's incredibly douchey, like the celebratory, what have you. Like, you can be happy and still have like some tact and grace.
Yeah.
And obviously these people do not have that. The only thing that I can assume about it being YMCA by the village people, which is so openly and like known to be associated with homosexuality, like homosexual culture in this country, is that it's being done satirically in some way.
But at that point, they could have just used Queen, We Are the Champions, and that's a much better song.
You could have used Van Halen's Top of the World, and it still would have been like a sports anthem. You won. This is what you skate around the ice with the Stanley Cup to.
By that point, I think maybe we could be like running with the devil.
You could.
I feel like they're like trying to stick it to the woke folks by using a song that's associated with gay folks.
When I was encountering these videos videos, I thought it was because they kept saying young man. So it's like, and because it was the perception that young men in general, won Trump the vote.
Right.
So they only use the one line. They don't do the whole
young
song.
man.
Yeah, and also ignore like what the song's been used for.
Yes.
For what, like 3 or 4 decades?
It's just YMCA, but young men, the same way that guy does John Cougar Mellencamp chili dogs.
Oh, nice. Chili dog, yeah.
Oh God.
So the other thing that really irks me, and I'll tie this into something. The other thing that irks me is all of the progressives, liberals, Democrats, whatever you like to qualify them as, they're all just like going to TikTok or Instagram or social media in general and just screaming.
Oh yeah.
And it is absolutely like, it pains me. Like, I know, Pedro, your brother has been like, oh man, I just love this. My sisters have been sending me videos. I'm like, oh, I love this. And they're not political.
Well, myself and my brother, as obviously stalwarts of the Latino vote, really drank that in.
It's just, there's a part of me that like, and I get heated on this podcast and I get heated outside the podcast. So I don't want to make myself out to be like this stalwart of stoicism.
Right.
But like, act like
that's a band name. I'm sorry. That's a band name.
But act like you've been there.
No.
It's and like I hate to even say it this way, but like in my mind is how it comes to me. It's all of it. It's so boorish to me.
Yeah, no.
It's just like it's showing face and being dramatic on both sides.
On both sides.
On both sides, just for like to have your reaction in the public eye.
Nobody in politics wins gracefully.
Yeah,
well, that's certainly true.
That's very true.
And people really want. I mean, this is just social media culture in general.
Yeah,
so it's even beyond the election. People really want to be seen and blah 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 blah. I will say, and it's like it could easily just be a criticism of social media in general. But when I am in some way having like a mental, like a moment where I feel mentally or emotionally weak, I don't really want to share it with the world. It's kind of like it's like we all go through these moments in life, and it's like some people are obviously very upset with the outcome of the election, and that's fair. And you feel that way. But why like really go out of your way to advertise like this emotional response? Like you could deal with it.
Whether it's positive or negative.
Exactly. Yeah, you can. I mean, I get more so. Like, don't get me wrong. What the Trump people are doing is completely obnoxious and over the top. But I mean, like, I will celebrate outwardly. I think we all do. We have parties.
Yeah, of
birthday
course.
Parties, this and that. But like when I'm like grieving and such like that, I don't like wail into my cell phone or make it. I don't want to like somebody cheering at a bar because their team won. I find that to be reasonable. It can be over the top.
It's usually obnoxious, but
it's usually obnoxious,
kind of get it.
I get it. But like if somebody broke out into tears at the bar and began to bring the mood down and whatnot, I'd be like, wow, it's like, relax, man. Like I just feel like one of these things is culturally, certainly to my culture, is more acceptable to do in a public forum than the other. And it's just kind of like, and again, it's kind of like one of these things where it's like, have a little bit of grace, have a little bit of tact. If you need to cheer. And if you want to, kind of vent that you're really upset at that, Trump or whoever you wanted to win, that they won, then you can do that in a reasonable way. I just think that it's unreasonable to scream, basically.
I mean,
that's what I'm getting at. Nobody should be screaming.
Yeah.
Call me old fashioned, but like what happened to just like taking all your pain and just burying it deep until your heart explodes sometime down the road?
Oh, I'm working on it. Yeah.
Well, it's the birthplace
Coffee
of
and bourbon,
alcohol.
baby.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
The reason I bring all this up is because if you're a Trump voter and you're happy that he won,
Great.
I have news for why you probably shouldn't be too happy. Because I like to keep track of, the cabinet situation.
Yes, of
because, in the event that Trump wins, or now that he has won, I wanted to see a few people in his cabinet. The big one being RFK Jr.
Yes.
And he got exactly the role that I wanted him to get, which is, Department of Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Yes. Yeah. So it's over the FDA, like the CDC, NIH, all that stuff like that. Yeah.
And it's actually very, comforting for me that he got that because I know who was trying to get it, and it was Ben Carson.
I remember
one of my favorites.
him.
Yeah, I
thought he was dead. Yeah.
He probably is. He just always looks like he's asleep. Just like, if you've ever watched an interview with him, please don't do this. It is one of the most god-awful, boring things you can ever freaking listen to, watch. It's more boring than golf.
It is like true doldrum. It is horrible.
So, good news, because a guy that actually I know he's like a neurosurgeon or whatever, but a guy that actually has like a plan for health and human services.
So I want to. May I dive into it? I know a little bit about RFK Jr.
Mm-hmm.
For a while I thought that he was just like anti the COVID vaccine, which many people are. Even if they believe that it works, doesn't, whatever.
Yeah.
But obviously, like many people got sick from it, this, that, the other, So I'm not a doomsayer about that particular subject. Yeah. I was told, I don't know if this is true, that he just generally opposes vaccines.
It's not that he opposes vaccines, is that he's one of those types that wants to know what's in the vaccines. That should be
I mean, that makes it sound so reasonable. Yeah. Is there, obviously you like the guy, so I'm going to get a biased answer. But like,
I'm not necessarily a fan of his, but there's certain people that I'm like, put this person here. Yeah. If you're going to be president, put this person here in your cabinet.
I have absolutely mocked him to death over a bunch of his insane aspects of his own life, but I think he's actually a good fit there.
Yeah. Listen, when we last talked about RFK Jr. on this podcast, I was like, how the fuck do you answer a question like you answered that question? Because it's just like, listen, there's got to be someone on your campaign that says, listen, somebody's going to bring up your past. Yeah. And for God's sakes, just don't say that you were rambunctious in your youth.
Right.
So it's not like I'm a sycophant for any of these.
No.
I call balls and strikes wherever I see them. I have my blind spots the same way as anyone would.
As anybody.
So I like him for this role. Please, for the love of God, keep him away from like the climate and the interns.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah.
They shouldn't have interns anymore.
They do.
I thought we learned that from the 90s.
It's a cheap source of labor.
It's not going away.
Cheap? Free?
Yeah. Well, cheap. Free is cheap.
Well, there's always the back end lawsuits you got to worry about.
That's true.
The other one that I like, I kind of have a mild respect for Tulsi Gabbard for the Director of National Intelligence. Mm-hmm. I like that just because, first of all, I probably would rather have her been like Secretary of State, but they gave that to somebody that I didn't want to have Secretary of State. But as far as I'm concerned, these are probably the two most liberal people in the cabinet. So
I would say so.
I like that. I like that it's a little bit of a mix between, ideologies. And also, I want to know how she got onto the quiet guys list. If anyone's got an axe to grind in that department,
for sure,
it'll be her.
Yeah. I like her being in that position because that's Director of Intelligence, right?
Yeah, National Intelligence.
Yeah. So I personally feel that portion of the government and the many agencies that it oversees, NSA, Five Eyes, CIA, all that type of shit, I feel like my personal opinion is that they should have less power.
Yeah.
I dislike how much power they have, and it's like they got so much more power because of 9/11 and the things that followed. But I dislike the overarching hand of the state and how everything is listened to now. And so I know very little about her personal politics, but I do see the ways in which she's counter to, not necessarily that she's counter to those organizations being powerful, but that her views contradict many of their established views. And so I feel like if there's infighting there, because her views differ from the people who are at the head of that, then I feel like that's good for limiting their power. In other words, I think that she is a destructive force to all of those agencies in the sense of limiting their ability to spy on Americans, or spy on anybody who doesn't deserve to be spied on.
Yeah. She's also a fan of the show. She brought it up at the Tony Stark brunches I go to.
I actually heard that. Yeah.
Hope so. Yeah. Call me, Tulsi.
Yeah. Love you.
Get those digits.
So the other two that I will make mention, I don't necessarily like these people. Mm-hmm. But I like how the quote unquote deep state or the machine or just the bureaucracy has reacted to it. I'm like, all right, now we'll give them a chance. First one, Secretary of Defense is Pete Hegseth, who is a Fox News personality, but also 20-year Army vet, 2 Bronze Stars. And
was he the one that hit the guy with the axe?
I have no idea.
Probably. Probably. If you look up photos of him right now, the answer is yes. You don't need to see it.
It was not on purpose, but he was doing something on TV.
Is. And then the other one that I'll throw out, and this guy he's kind of like in my opinion, kind of like the Republican version of Eric Swalwell, or Gavin Newsom. He just like perspires ooze. Matt Gaetz is the Attorney General. Yep. The only reason I really give these guys any sort of like all right, you have my curiosity. You don't have my attention yet, but
right.
you have my curiosity is because all of like John Bolton is like, this is ridiculous. How could these people get these picks? And I'm like, well, if John Bolton doesn't like this, if random ass, like military industrial complex, sources don't like the Pete Hegseth pick, I'm like, all right, I like this a little bit more now because, the people who, profiteer off of wars and all that stuff.
I feel like that's, with all of these choices of the cabinet, I think that's like the only thread that I really see between them. And I'll say this, like, I personally enjoy them for this reason, but most Americans who know what they're talking about would be opposed to it for reasons like John Bolton is. Because, like, I view it as that, and it's kind of like what Trump runs on, is like, I'm going to shake things up.
Yeah.
And his way of shaking it up is that, like, all of you guys work for this agency, and you're all like, some of you are like, corrupt, or you're giving these contracts to these military industrial contractors, so on and so forth. But at the same time, we've all been doing the same thing, which, for the most part, it's furthering American interest to some degree or another. I don't necessarily always agree with, what we claim are American interests. And so you throw in somebody that in many of these cases has no real business being in that position. And I'm like, okay, so this is how you're mixing it up, because you just like got the guy from McDonald's and put him in charge of like defense. And clearly the people under him are not going to want to listen, but this is how you shake it up because you can fire them.
But also at the same time, like if you are a Democrat and you were okay with Pete Buttigieg being the, the Secretary of Transportation, you have no leg to stand on.
That's fair.
So, but one thing I did want to mention before we get to the things that I didn't like, because I want a job at this department.
Yeah,
the Department of Government Efficiency.
Dogecoin. Yeah.
And it's
Musk and
it's Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
But I listen all day today, guys.
You want to talk about draining the swamp and he just built a new one? How do you build a swamp
I have
overnight?
been biting at my nails. If you weren't going to bring it up, I was going to shout it into the microphone.
I want a job. I want to just be Ron Swanson. I was watching.
I want to see if I can get a lateral move. Move me over there. I don't care.
I was just like, slash it. I swear, if you're listening, maybe not Elon, because I think you hate us, but Vivek, if you stumble upon this podcast, I want a job at the Department of Government Efficiency. I will slash everything.
You figure that if your if your associate is Elon Musk and your boss is Donald Trump and you're both vying for his favor, then you're looking for friends, and it doesn't matter how small they are. There's a constant axe swinging over you.
It just triggers my inner libertarian so much that I'm like, oh, we can slash stuff? Where do we start? How about the IRS?
Show me the jugular.
IRS, all of it, gone.
I love that Elon Musk, though, and it's like one of those things where it's like, and it really goes to show you that we live in a post-truth age where you get this like, like fucking false news shit. But it's that like his claims of what he's going to cut from the government is more than can be cut. Just like,
Government gone.
Government's gone, and now you're just going to get checks from me. And that's how this country runs.
I mean, he's the one that could afford it.
Yeah.
I just the idea of that, it's like, listen, I so badly want to be Ron Swanson now.
It goes to show you, though, for like all that, for all the talk and hoopla of like the MAGA people and what have you, it's that clearly Elon Musk bought himself this gravy position, and now he's going to reap the benefits of it, because even when you get this so-called political outsider, and I will give Trump that title, he's a political outsider who certainly rose to the challenge. I mean, you can't take that away from the guy, but then he just like appoints whoever gave him money.
Well, it puts Elon in the running for the next election.
Yeah.
It gives him credibility for everyone to vote for him. Everybody loves Tesla.
I think he was born in South Africa.
Yeah, he's not eligible.
No, we're going to repeal that.
I don't think you'll be able to do that.
Trump may be able to do it.
I don't
But he won't, because Trump doesn't like challengers.
Well, he can't run it. Can he run again?
No, that's one thing that he can change.
We
got 12 years, baby.
In print, if you would, that is not going to happen.
No, that's... All right, so some of I'm not going to get into all of these, because some of these people I don't know, some of these people I don't give a shit about. But like the picks that I was like, fucking really? So the first one, I already alluded to it. Secretary of State is Marco fucking Rubio.
Yeah.
And I just, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, all right, so this is your like, if you're like this anti-establishment regime,
right,
this is your liaison to the establishment.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right, so when do we bomb Venezuela for no particular reason?
I was going to say that as a Latino voter, I'm glad that he's going to harm my people.
Yeah, he's just people have tried to say that he's like kind of gone away from being a chicken hawk, but in my opinion, once you're a chicken hawk, you're always a chicken hawk.
Yeah.
And he's whatever. He's a political chameleon, like all of those people are.
Yeah.
You know,
he's just going to get whatever role he can, so he can, gain power. And and now he's the Secretary of State, which is a very powerful position. The other one that I don't like, because like this is embarrassing that she got this fucking position. Secretary of Homeland Security is Kristi Noem.
Yep, Noem.
Kristi Noem. All right, so in case you don't pay attention and you're like, Dan, tell me a little bit about Kristi Noem.
I'm listening.
Kristi Noem was the governor of South Dakota. Her claim to fame is that she didn't lock down during COVID in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what? There's more
12 people?
Yeah, there's more square feet than people?
Yeah.
Oh, there is.
And 6 of those people stayed healthy.
Well, 6 of them are also on reservations.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But even if you're like, well, that's all fine and dandy, you shouldn't have done that to begin with. Okay. Well, she came out with some sort of autobiography, memoir, whatever you want, book.
Yeah.
That she didn't have the attention to detail to read herself, apparently, because
The ghostwriter.
That's why you have editors.
Yeah. Well,
no.
Or you don't.
Or you don't.
Because apparently there was a completely false story of her meeting Kim Jong-un.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And also a story that was trying to make her seem tough, where she shot a dog.
That's a weird flex.
It is an incredibly weird flex.
I did read that part. Yeah.
Especially when she was like, well, I want to run, for like, if not for president or the Republican nomination, I want to flex to get into the cabinet. And it's just like, killing a dog does not prove that you're tough.
But it got her there.
Yeah.
No, it's
It got her there. Maybe there is some logic to that.
That's why it's baffling to me.
Even when you have to do, it's not something you brag about.
Yeah. It's also at the same time, governor of South Dakota. The fuck does she know about Homeland Security?
I mean, like,
Keep those North Dakotans out.
This is the big aspect of it. I think that regardless as to whether you think that these people found good roles or not, Trump clearly chose people who are loyal.
Yeah.
And that's what you're seeing in the headlines. He chose people who are loyal. And what I am looking at now is that it didn't matter who he chose. It's that wait 6 months or a year and see how many of these people he's fighting with.
Oh, I really hope he fires Marco Rubio.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to. Every single person. I mean, how long is it until Elon Musk and Donald Trump are having a Twitter war and Trump gets banned again? It's going to happen.
Not long. Those guys. Elon is he's got razor thin skin.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about. I mean, Trump basically
because he's a robot.
Also, please still hire me for the Department of Government Efficiency.
Oh, I'll shut the fuck up the moment I get the job. Yeah. But that's what it is. It's that Trump is a narcissist. And the people who were sycophants to him, who are willing to say or do anything to get, the power that obviously has coalesced around him, they exhibit that same type of narcissism. And so you've got a whole bunch of narcissism, a whole bunch of narcissistic people who are making up this core of government. How does that work? Yeah. You're talking about I hate that people make this analogy because I'm about to make it, not in the same way, but you're talking about like Hitler's inner circle, where everybody's like vying for power and they're cutthroat. And nobody's willing to work together. And in fact, they're trying to sabotage each other, because it's one of these things where it's like, and you see it with strongman leaders in general, where you surround yourself with people who are always trying to work for your personal favor, but it isn't about an ultimate goal. It's just about you. And that's what Trump has surrounded himself with. And so these people are going to be cutthroat. They're not going to achieve, they've got the full government, so they should be able to achieve some things. But they're going to descend into what they are, which is a bunch of fucking narcissists, sycophants. And they're going to, at some point, certainly the powerful ones like Elon Musk, are going to butt heads with Trump, because Elon Musk has got to be thinking to
They've
himself,
already butted heads in his first term.
Yeah. I mean, he did it better this term. Honestly, fucking Rudy Giuliani in the first one. I mean,
Elon
he did the damage
himself this fucking time around.
Mm-hmm.
So the only other one that I will bring up, and then we can move on, Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee.
Huckabee.
Right.
Just bring knee pads with you, because you're just going to be blowing Netanyahu. I guess that's what his role is.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much my commentary.
Well, at his age, he has no teeth, so you just pop.
But does he
out
have
those
nice
dentures.
lips?
I don't know. I mean, with a name like Huckabee, how could he not?
It sounds like he has nice lips.
Well, at least Stephen Miller got a job back this
well, yeah, he was guaranteed a job. So yeah, there's nothing to really comment on there.
No.
It's just like,
But,
yes, go ahead.
They didn't get who they wanted as Senate Majority Leader. They didn't get Scott.
Oh yeah.
right.
So they
Tim
got John Thune, which
Yeah.
I don't see. I mean, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, there's still a whole bunch of stuff that they got to do in the Senate and all that stuff, because that, like, I don't even know. Did they even still call that race in Pennsylvania? Because the Republicans already won
Right.
the Senate. They'll have the majority. Let me just check this real quick.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just interesting. It's interesting because obviously they wanted Scott because he's a pretty pro-Trump guy, but
Yeah.
Okay,
Who
so
who absolutely committed a litany of felonies and was never convicted. It's absurd.
so they actually did finally call the Pennsylvania race.
oh, they did. Okay.
So Dave McCormick did win. So the Republicans have 53, Democrats have 47 in the Senate.
Yep.
No.
So
That's a
they
sweep.
have they have a slim majority in both houses.
That's a strong majority, at least compared to the past 4 years.
I'm thinking more in terms of like the supermajority would be 60.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's-
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking
We haven't had that though in a long time,
no,
right?
we
Yeah.
had it. The last time we had it was Obama,
Yeah,
Oh, fair enough.
That's
I think
true.
Obama's
That is
first
true.
term.
Yeah.
and they didn't do anything with it.
They didn't do anything. Yeah.
All right. Speaking of the Democrats, and we talked about how they lost their ever-loving goddamn minds. There's been a lot of the blame game going around with the
Oh, big
Democrats.
time.
They've been like, well, we lost because we were too woke. We lost because we were too centrist. We lost because of
Muslims.
Biden didn't drop out. Actually, yes, to a degree, Muslims.
Yeah.
Because
I've read that one.
Dearborn went to Trump, which is, that's actually really funny in retrospect because how?
Yeah. I might have told you this. I read on Al Jazeera. I enjoy going to that news source.
So do I.
And I think sometimes you get less biased shit over there than you do on American media, which is obviously about as biased as it gets for us. But it was a person who was a Palestinian American, like they were born there, but otherwise, fully an American person. And they wrote, I forget what the title of the article was, but it was like something, they wrote it like, they basically typed up like a novel within minutes of the election closing. And
They just hit send.
yeah, right.
They had this
and it
all
was
typed up.
titled something along the lines of like, "Don't you dare." And I was like, all right, I'll read this. and the person, I felt that they were right. They were basically just like, all of the Democrats right now are blaming, Muslim Americans and Arab Americans for giving the vote to Trump. And it's like, you didn't do anything to gain our vote.
Yeah.
You just sat there and said that we owe it
We
to
have
you.
it, yeah.
Exactly. And the Democratic Party typically does this with minority groups, which are the groups that it depends upon.
They were also doing that to men.
Yeah.
And then the most condescending thing that they did on Kamala's campaign trail, other than those campaign ads where I'm like, I'm a man, and I'm man enough to vote for Kamala. Obama lectured black men.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if you don't vote for Kamala, then you're a piece of shit. I'm
Yeah.
like,
That's what men love.
Yeah.
brother,
Yeah.
you no, you're gonna just be try to be like a stern dad. Like, I don't think the black community respects you the way that you think they do.
The establishment Democratic Party is so tone deaf.
Yeah.
They gave it away.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, they truly just gave it away.
There was one particular, I didn't really follow these, I try to avoid watching all the news surrounding in the build up to the actual election itself. But Kamala Harris was doing an event, I believe it was in Dearborn. And it was a Democratic event. So, you wouldn't, everybody chose to be there. There's not going to be a lot of hecklers, they're all waiting for you to win. And somebody stood up during a pause. And they were like, what are you going to do about Gaza?
Yeah.
Which is obviously a big issue there. And she put her pointer finger out and she said, I'm speaking in the most condescending way.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Fuck
wow,
you.
that's a big fuck you to somebody when there's a much more graceful way to handle that. Was that person wrong to stand up? Yeah, whatever.
That's debatable.
Yeah,
because
but they weren't going to get a
that's
voice
why they
anyway.
were there,
Yeah.
is to ask these important questions.
Exactly. Yeah, there was a structured event there, and you weren't supposed to ask these questions. This person chose to stand up and ask a question that everybody in the room was thinking, and they did that. And they weren't cursing, they didn't get dragged out or anything like that. And she approached it in this very rude manner. And you see the same thing happening it's the belief system that the party has. And it's it goes back to a previous election when I think was it Biden, something like that, where it's if you don't vote Democrat, then you're not really black.
That was 2020. He said that on the Breakfast Club with Charlemagne the God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't believe that First of all, this is a motherfucker who goes out there and tries to like speak on behalf of the black community.
Right. It's amazing.
And he just let that slide.
At least Obama can play basketball and damn well.
Yeah, he is actually pretty
He's
good.
really good. Yeah, he's really good.
So that brings me to, because that's a very important point. I didn't even have that written down. The reasons why the Democrats lost and the elitism.
Yeah.
And especially like in the face of the voter, huge.
Yeah.
Because there was a shift with the Democrats and the Republicans, because the Republicans were always, very elitist.
Yeah.
They were the party of the big donors. They still are, but they put that forth that they were the party of the
They
big
managed to properly apply the lipstick to the pig.
Yes. And then what happened with Bill Clinton is that Clinton kind of, realized, hey, we need that big money too.
Yes.
And since Bill Clinton, the Democrats have been the big money party, and the Republicans have not been able to raise the same amount of money because Republicans are reactionary, and half the time they don't know what to do once the Democrats actually change.
That is
the,
a very
the mold.
actually very succinct way to put that. They are incredibly reactionary.
Republicans are basically, I mean, the platform of the party is very largely that what the Democrats are doing is wrong, and we should, not do the exact same thing, but that it's not as flawed as what they're describing, and it's not the cause of our frustration.
Well, they're using the same tactics that they used in the past, but it's a different world now, where those things don't work anymore. You have to change your game.
And neither party is actually trying to change anything, which I'll bring that back to. This is the issue of when you're talking about minority votes and whatnot, or when you're talking about the mainstream vote. Let's just call it like the white man in this country.
Yeah.
The bottom line is that people have regular, practical concerns, and neither party is interested or knows how to address those concerns because they're fundamental to what's happening in this country and what's been happening for many, many decades. And because they don't have a solution, it's much easier for both of these parties to jump on the identity politics bandwagon and talk about these other subjects. And so you've got the Democrats who are basically pretending that they know how black people live because they've got like 3 fucking black people over there, who are black of skin. And that's
Clinton played saxophone.
Exactly. That makes them black in the eyes of the Democratic Party.
But you have the Democratic Party cannot recognize its own problems, like the separation between neoliberalism, and more laissez-faire, trying to survive liberals.
Yeah.
And they just could not get it together.
But also at the same time, they were so in those examples that you guys gave, they were so elitist that their own party was like, wow.
Yeah.
And then Trump was able to whatever you think about Trump, whether you think he's an asshole or you love him, whatever.
Well, he is an asshole.
Yeah, and that's why people love him.
Yeah, that's why they love him. Yeah.
I'm just saying that to preface, no matter where you think he is on the personality scale, motherfucker was able to go on Joe Rogan, talk to that man for 3 hours and seem personable. He was able to go on to the Undertaker's fucking podcast and seem personable.
He went on Theo Vaughn's
podcast and seemed personable. And that's what you need to do as a goddamned politician. You need to be able to seem like, hey, look, when I was in the Navy and George W. Bush won re-election, I talked to a guy. I might have said this on the podcast. I might have said it off the podcast. I don't fucking remember. But I asked the person, why did you vote for George W. Bush? And he said, he seemed like a guy that I could have a beer with. And that is something that has eluded the Democrats.
It's interesting.
You could dodge a shoe. You could be a president.
That is the litmus test, and I've used that analogy myself. I think that Obama's that guy. I would love to have a beer with Barack Obama.
I really
would.
To play a pickup game with him.
Not anymore. Can you have a beer with him? We'll be like, Pete.
Yeah, well, now he's drinking his own Kool-Aid. But
the problem with you is you didn't vote for Kamala, and I think you should turn in your not only your black card, but your Colombian card too.
Nope.
I do
I've only got
when
a third of a
Dan
black
comes
card.
in with impressions because he usually does them pretty well.
I try. I've worked on that for a while.
No. I think that with Trump, and it is so, I guess ironic might be the word, but with Trump, it's that he gives, people do take that away, where it's like, I could have a beer with this guy. And yes, much more so than Kamala Harris, which seems like that would be unpleasant, than a Hillary Clinton, than a Joe Biden. I wouldn't want to have a beer with any of those people. And I will say that, I would like to have a beer with Trump, but not because it would be enjoyable like it would be with Bill Clinton or with George W. Bush, even though I don't like the guy, or with Obama. With Trump, it would be I would like to have it for the social experiment But like he would immediately like what's the conversation you're having? It's just him talking about how great he is.
With that,
it's an awful beer. You're not even gonna finish it. You're gonna get halfway through and you're choking that down.
I want to have a beer in the same room where Trump is also maybe having a beer or drinking his
he's
Diet
a teetotaler
Coke or whatever.
Yeah, Diet Coke.
Yeah, he's not gonna be drinking with.
It's all fever dreams. It'll never.
But I don't want to actually I don't want to share a Big Mac with him.
No.
I want to be in the same McDonald's with him while he's having a Pac-Man. Ooh, do they still have that? Maybe one of those McD's.
All right. So a point that you made about identity politics. I'll jump to this. I think this is a big reason why the Democrats lost so let's go back in time to 2016.
Yeah.
Trump runs for the first time. Mm-hmm. He's essentially tripping over Ottomans left and right.
Yep.
He should not be in the position that he's in. The Republicans can't control him, but the Democrats have already made one crucial error. I believe that Obama told Joe Biden, hey, it's Hillary's turn, you're not running. Mistake number one.
For sure.
Because Joe Biden in 2016, fairly cognizant, can still ride the wave of Obama because Obama, even kind of now, is still a popular Democrat.
Well, Biden wasn't
oddly enough.
Yeah.
Compromised, mentally compromised.
Yeah. And they thought that
I'm trying to be like fair about this, but like he came off as like Obama's like lovable sidekick.
Yeah. He was just like he was
Fallout Boy.
He was
if the black guy likes him, it must be good.
Yeah, and he was just like Scranton Joe. He's just like, hey, come on, man, we're gonna be able to fix this. You're not from the South. Why do you sound like that?
Yeah.
But like,
he's a good old boy without the good old.
Because that's when the stroke started happening.
But I remember distinctly, he said it was like. And I should probably look this up before I completely make this statement. But like I remember him saying on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert that it was his excuse was it was too soon after Beau Biden passed away. And Beau Biden passed away in 2015.
2015, the year before.
I question if, I don't want to completely dehumanize these people, but not for nothing. I feel like career politicians are more... They look at things that we might perceive as being like tragic life events and such like that in a very compartmentalized way. I don't view people who have a lust for power.
They kind of have to.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean.
In that arena.
I don't think that and I do think that power corrupts. So I'm not saying this couldn't happen to any one of us. But I think that people who seek power in this way, so that would be a Biden, it would be an Obama. I would throw everybody. Trump's in there.
If you're running, you want it.
Yeah, every one of these people. I think that they are willing to look at something like the loss of a loved one who was very close, a son, a daughter, a parent, whatever. And their natural inclination is to see how they can benefit.
Yeah, how to use it.
Yeah, how to use it. Yeah, and a regular person, whatever that means to you, a regular person doesn't do that. They're just in grieving.
Well, it might not even be them inherently. Like their campaign manager will be like, "Oh, this is a good spin."
But I'm saying that a regular, you wouldn't even be seeking that position in the first place, so you wouldn't have a campaign manager. And if you did, and it's like, again, I know that power corrupts, but I would like to think of myself that, if I was running for something and my kid died, I would not be like, oh, how can I benefit from this?
Yeah.
But I think that these people do think that way.
And look how long he was in the chase for that. How long he's been trying
Well, that's true
failing
too, yeah.
To get
this
to that
was his kind of leg up to
and honestly too, if he did run and he kind of did use that, I think he blows
not a good
Trump.
Look.
It's no. First of all, you play that up on.
I blame that on the voter. Why would you fall for that? Because it's not a good look.
Why does anybody fall for anything?
They fall. It's a sympathy play. It's just like, listen, my son just recently passed away, and I want to make sure that all of our vets and all of our soldiers and sailors and all that stuff that are exposed to the burn pits don't fall under the same. Don't have the same fate as mine.
Right. It's a manipulation.
Exactly. I just did it. So I think that's mistake number one.
Yes.
And then mistake number two. You ran Hillary Clinton, who was historically unpopular. Bill was popular. Hillary was never popular.
No.
Right. Yeah. If anything, it was perceived.
The only reason Bill was so popular is because Hillary was so unpopular. We wanted let's give this guy a chance.
I remember at that time, people that know nothing about anything were like, "Oh, that fucking war hawk."
Yeah. And they passed on someone who was remarkably popular. Bernie Sanders, whether he's a little bit too whatever, because I'm saying keep saying Democrat socialist, you're going to scare off some moderates.
Absolutely.
But for the love of God, This person was selling out arenas and having like big time rallies and all that stuff.
He represents in the eyes of people who don't completely disdain him, and now it's shifted obviously with MAGA and Trump and what have you, but he basically represents a lot of the things that so-called working class people, regardless of the identity politics that we throw upon that, you know, the color of your skin and your religion, etc.
The color of your collar.
There you go, Moses. That's actually well said. But yeah, it's about like where we stand economically and what we think the future looks like.
He kind of gave a face to like the disenfranchisement of a lot of people.
Yeah. And like, I even talked to my dad, and he was like, I actually do kind of like Bernie, but I like Trump more.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of like they both had that populist, like they spoke to the working class type thing, and they shut him down.
Oh, they straight up kicked him out of the neighborhood.
The Democrats would rather lose with Hillary than win with Bernie.
Because look good and lose and look bad and win, but they don't look good at all.
Well, because they were so focused, razor focused, you know, honed in on the idea of like, we're going to have the first female president.
Yep.
We're going to have the first female president, and it's going to be Hillary.
And even besides that, though, they didn't want him because he doesn't represent their party.
They didn't want anything to challenge the power structure in the party. I agree with that.
That's what it is.
But they were honed in as well. Because if they did want to win, then you run Biden. If you did want to, and then you're like, all right, well, we made the mistake and Biden's not running anymore. Well, we can run Bernie.
They were never going to run Bernie because he's against them.
I understand that.
Remember how hard they played? Oh, Bill would be the fucking the first fucking
Imagine it. The first man.
Yeah. And then people were like, well, you know, this is an election about Bill. It's like he's going to be in charge of the economy according to her.
It just occurred to me that we wouldn't call them the first man because it's the first lady, which means that he would have actually been the first gentleman. Which is a great title. It sounds a little royal for this country, but I'm kind of into it.
I wish it was Bill Clinton because he's the one that could wear it the best.
Yeah. Also, he's not a gentleman.
Oh, he is the most gentle of men.
And so, from that point,
you know how much breath work it takes for a saxophone?
Shut up.
You have to lick that reed.
God damn it.
Get it moist.
I'm drinking wine here now.
You are ridiculous. So we jump over to 2020.
Yeah.
Kamala legitimately calls Joe Biden, or at least implies Joe Biden is a racist on the debate stage.
Coming from a racist.
And he still picks her as VP. And as we've already said on the podcast, he's made it clear that she was a diversity hire. So it's right then and there, right there in your face. And then there's also this.
It shows you the machinations of this whole system.
And it also shows you, too, because there's this whole meme, especially going around with like Republicans, conservatives, all that, where it's like, all right, when Obama was running, all right, I need a vice president that's dumber than I am. So he picks Joe Biden.
Could have been anybody.
Obama's really could have been.
And then Joe Biden is like, well, I need a vice president dumber than I am. He picks Kamala. And then Kamala is like, I need a vice president dumber than I am. And it's Tim Walz. And it's like, I think we already said this on the
he sells lawnmowers or something, right?
Well, he will be now.
Now he's on propane.
What a remarkably bad pick, by the way. Like, at least JD Vance was able to do something, like go onto networks and be argue the point. Tim Walz was just like, I know you can't see. I'm making a shock face.
He's making a very
JD Vance looks like one of those like old-fashioned vintage dolls to me. Like he's just put forth such an effort to be
right. Like a porcelain doll.
Yeah, like a porcelain doll.
Especially, he did fix himself a little bit, putting a little facial hair on. Yeah. But when he's clean shaven, whatever.
He's just very pretty and only has like one face.
It's not, I wouldn't even call it pretty.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I got better taste than that.
Yeah. It's not pretty.
Clean.
Cherubish or something.
Cherubish. Yeah. Wow. Well, that is the better way to describe it.
Michelangelo was painting him with dicks.
So I bring all of that up because, you know, everyone has their identity politics. I'm not going to say the Republicans don't have identity politics.
I'm a Latino voter.
It's real. But the Democrats have gotten so enamored with the identity politics that it literally made them put forth candidates that were not going to win because they were so either one, unremarkably popular like Hillary Clinton, or two, unremarkably talented at this thing. Kamala Harris couldn't go on 60 Minutes without having a heavily edited fucking interview. Yeah. This was a home game for her, and she couldn't fucking do it.
It was just put out recently that the whole reason why she didn't go on a Joe Rogan podcast because it would like cost them like big donors and stuff like that.
Yeah. And like also like the progressives in the party would be like upset about that or whatever, which is ridiculous because now all the people that are like, how did we lose? We're like, well, we need to get our own Joe Rogan. It was like, you had one, you morons. He was a Bernie supporter.
Yeah.
Jesus, he was in Hollywood for so long.
I was going to say, because he's not inherently Republican. He's more, the hell's the other one?
Fringe?
No, he's not even fringe.
No, he's not fringe. He's just a freaking
like more libertarian than anything.
That might know what he is. Yeah,
that might be.
For all that he knows, you don't know shit.
But like he was.
But it's also kind of like he's like a lost general person. He's like, I don't generally know what the fucking thing.
Yeah, like a politically homeless person, but he liked Bernie Sanders. When Bernie Sanders, I think it was maybe it was a little after that election. I have to look at the date.
I think so.
He had Bernie Sanders on the podcast. And earlier he said, like, I'm not going to have Trump on the podcast. I don't want to platform Trump.
Absolutely,
so he was doing everything in his power, really, to be like, all right, like, I will talk. He talked to John fucking Fetterman for 3 hours. John Fetterman just recently. John Fetterman couldn't fucking complete sentences in that debate against Dr. Oz, and he can do it. Kamala can't do it. Jesus Christ.
Because like I can't remember if I said it or not, but like I used to be a big listener of Joe Rogan in the very early days. I gave up on it. It just got a little too samey and weird for me.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But like, you bringing people on, and like he has such a massive reach.
Yeah.
Of just like people that like normal people to listen, and like I think it's a huge misstep, and I don't think it would have changed anything.
It probably wouldn't have, but it's still a try.
The reason
put the effort in.
The reason why it wouldn't change anything, because I bring all these up. These are secondary, tertiary reasons why Kamala lost.
Of course.
The main reason, and we all know it, and anyone who's been listening to this podcast or any podcast or just existed generally in this country knows it was the economy.
It's always the economy.
It was James Carville was right back in like, what was it, 92 when he told this stuff? Bill Clinton. It's the economy, stupid. It was always going to be the economy.
Yep.
And I said, this is how much of a fucking election nerd I am.
The real problem's the real people.
Yeah. This is how much of an election nerd I am. I was trying to watch like pretty much all three networks, MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News election night. And there was one point at CNN, Jake Tapper, and whoever was working the fucking screen, it's like, how many counties have shifted over red or have gotten redder or whatever the fuck the metric was. And he puts it up and it's like a bunch of counties. He swung like 1,000 counties or whatever. And then the next question is like, all right, in what counties has Kamala done better than Joe Biden?
None.
Zero.
Yeah.
The entire country was blank, and he was stunned. Yeah. It's because Joe Biden, despite all of the critiques I can levy at him, can still seem like a normal, like even-keeled kind of guy, relatable, all that stuff. Kamala Harris was relatable to no one because she stood on nothing. And in that same map before you guys take over, they were literally showing all of the areas where inflation had hit the hardest and was like pretty much all of the swing states. Yeah. Especially like Arizona and Nevada had like the darkest colors in the entire
What are the problems that like people that don't even really give a shit about politics, what affects them? What's in their face day to day? Yeah. And that's the game that has to be played.
Where that relates back to, in my opinion, where that relates back to how you depict yourself, and where I feel like she failed in particular. Because her policies would have been the same as Biden's. But I feel like you touched upon it in the vein of that he is somebody where it's like he can be relatable.
Personable.
Not to me, but I see where that exists. The bottom line is that you're looking at your economic situation, and then you want somebody who seems like they grasp that in some way. She was such a social chameleon. Yeah, because like my grievance with her, I don't think that anybody's going to fix economic problems in this country. Like Trump's not going to do it. He talks a big game. That's not going to happen. The problems are much more complex than what any of these people are talking about. Trump's just going to do X, Y, Z, and somehow that makes, the country great again. And it's that easy. He solves the Ukraine war in one day.
It's optics.
Yeah, exactly. It's just optics. But the reality of it is that her campaign largely existed of going around. And I particularly disdain this as somebody who does take pride in being like the various minorities that I am. And she was just like, oh, I'm like a black person now, so I get it. I get your economic plight, or I'm, she's an Indian person. I get that economic plight. And she was trying to relate it back to that. I do understand where you're coming from. And I get it through this lens of that I am like you. And that is so
I'm all of these things, but you're not.
Yeah. And
you're not at all.
Yeah. And it's something where, and I've said this like a million people, where it's like, it's one of these things where even like on the liberal side of it, and I have far more friends whose opinions I respect anyway, that fall under that side of it. I've got a lot of Trump friends who I don't necessarily think they know what they're talking about, but I've got a million liberal friends who are educated in these things and more or less look at that. And contrary to what the Democratic Party seems to put forth, which is that like, oh no, like if you just tell somebody that you're black, then they're just going to be on board with that because that's how dumb black people are. Yeah. In other words, it's like, that's why Trump got more of the black vote, because he's openly racist in a certain way. You know, like, in other words,
they know it's the devil that you know.
Yeah. He's honest about what he is in that he calls himself a liar. You know, there's a double entendre there almost, you know, and that's what she didn't do. She was cosplaying as me. And that's very insulting. And I'm never going to get behind that. And you clearly, if I knew nothing else, then I know that you know nothing about myself. You know nothing about my economic plight, etc. Whereas Trump gets up there, he's a fucking billionaire who is saying all of the wrong things. Yeah. But he does get up there and he's basically like, yeah, you know, this is what I'm going to do. And it's stupid, but I don't care because everybody else is wrong. I'm like, you know what? This is how I act when I'm drunk at a party. So it's relatable to me.
Also, like, if you look at like kind of like the finite numbers, it's not necessarily that a lot more people voted for Trump. It's a lot more people didn't vote against him.
It was always going to be about who got out to vote. Yeah. And people didn't go out to vote for her. Again, based off of that, if you get up there and cosplay as a black person or cosplay as any minority in a way of getting votes, it's see-through. People are not as dumb. And like, I have a very low respect for the intelligence of my fellow man, self-included.
Fair. I drink to that.
Yeah, right. Amen. But people are not as dumb as we put forth. I think that people are dumb with like practical things in life, bad at finance, bad at this, bad whatever. But in terms of like being able to see through your bullshit when you're just like pretending to be something different, I think that your average person is very good at seeing through that. And that's what these political parties don't get.
Yeah.
I think it came down to like, what am I voting for? Like, do I know what Trump is? But I don't know what she is. Like, what is she doing? Because I feel like there's some other game happening here that I am not privy to.
The American voter, for all the bullshit that they don't pick up, can pick up if you're bullshitting about who you are as a person.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what Kamala could not do.
It comes down to integrity.
She didn't have a personality.
It's so built into us, I think. And again, it's like, no matter how dumb you are, you can look at another human being when you run into a stranger at a fucking Wawa or whatever at a party, or when you're watching somebody on TV who's selling you a bill of goods, right? I think that people in general, it's so built into us that you can
judge a book by its cover.
You can recognize when you're getting bullshitted. You see the body language, you hear the tone and the words that are used. And somebody who's telling you a story that's too good to be true, and politicians are obviously, that's what they do. That's the story that they're telling. Whereas Trump gets up there and he basically goes, everything sucks, right? That's true. He goes, but it's somebody else's fault. That's bullshit. He goes, and I'm a piece of shit, but I'm gonna fix this somehow miraculously. He got 3 out of 4 on that one.
Yeah.
It's a reality TV world now, and we got a reality TV president. And like, I guess you could switch reality TV for just like a TikTok president. But it's like, that's what we're voting for now, because that's where America's mindset is. Is like, oh, who's the most popular? Because that's who I want to be on board with. It doesn't matter about anything, any of their issues or whatever they say they're going to do.
It's an astute point too, because you know he is a reality TV star.
Yeah,
he is.
So, and also he's been a playboy for his entire life practically.
He was on the wrong end of a stunner.
Yeah. So he and that also leads into it too. He is used to like the cameras being on him.
Yeah.
So like he can
it's natural for him.
It's natural. He can just show up and do a 3-hour rally and just
it doesn't matter what he says. It's he could say, I hate Jews, I hate blacks, and people would be like, well, he's honest.
It's not even that.
Like, it's that weird.
When comparing the two, Trump does not shrink. He doesn't shrivel in the spotlight. He thrives in the spotlight.
No, he leans into everything.
He was born in the spotlight.
Oh my God. Damn it, Nolan.
Kamala just absolutely cracked under the pressure. That's the bottom line of it. Yeah. She couldn't do any of the things that you need a president to do. And a lot of people, moderates, voted for Trump. Seeing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And because the DNC tried to play her even kind of like Republican light.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just was so disingenuous.
Yeah. And that's also another thing, too. That campaign didn't really have a direction.
No.
And so I see people like, Jon Stewart was saying like, oh, it wasn't woke's fault. It's like, well, because if you run under this kind of ideology for 4 years,
right,
and then in 4 months, you're just like, no, we're actually centrist, people aren't going to buy it.
No, you have to stick to, stay on the fucking course.
Well, that's like after all of these months of everybody, including Biden, describing Trump in the light that they did, which I think is mostly fair. Like I'm clearly not a fan of Trump, but at the same time, he just invited him over to the White House, shook his hand, and it's like, this guy, you're shaking hands with Hitler right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's complete.
I also do want to say on the back end of that, Biden's statement was the most incoherent statement I ever. He told me his things, and I was very happy for them. He told me his things, and I accepted them, and I'm thankful for them.
I think it was more of a cordiality that he was trying to
Corn Cob.
try to do. But then there was that the trash thing.
When he was he called Trump supporters trash, and then Trump was in
in a garbage
before the election. It's like, what are you doing?
It was the
like,
next
where
morning.
are your handlers?
Well, I guess so. What I'll do,
they handled that well, Trump's team,
because we only have we have a few more minutes.
Maybe a few more minutes.
Maybe we can touch on the future elections, but I do want to mention the conspiracy theory that Joe Biden and Jill Biden voted Trump. Because
I thought you were going to say they were the same person.
No, because Jill Biden showed up to vote wearing red. You don't show up.
Wow.
You don't. And Joe Biden was wearing like a red tie.
Are we looking that far into it? That's crazy.
That is weird. Isn't that a power tie? Red is power tie.
Well, here's the reason why
Trump
people
only wears that.
Well, there's other reasons why he only does that. But
here's the reason why people think this.
Yes.
Joe Biden was obviously cooed.
Yeah.
He wanted to run again.
Absolutely.
He kept saying, I want to run again. And then,
so he flopped it?
So effectively, Joe Biden, what they're all thinking is that Joe Biden, and certainly Jill Biden, because Jill Biden was probably the one that wanted the power the most.
Absolutely. Oh, for sure.
Because Joe Biden wasn't,
he was just
around.
A husk.
Yeah. So they were both like, no, fuck her. We'll vote Trump and we'll get her out of here just purely out of spite.
Get her out of D.C.
Just get her out of here, ruin her political career because
I'm gonna say,
you running again after this?
I'm going to say right or wrong, the DNC has not come out looking good for at least of like manipulation and how they treat. Go ahead.
It almost sounds like McMahon wrote this right before he got booted out of WWE.
Yeah.
Like I've seen this before.
Because Kamala, you got no chance in hell.
You're fired. Which is a Trump thing.
But it's really funny because like the Democratic Party, like whatever like levels of the echelon that like makes the decision for the party itself, has really kind of like not necessarily exposed, but shown that how cutthroat they can be with their own. And like I always find myself more in the middle of these things, but it's just like it's gross.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. It has nothing to do with us.
No.
Everything that
absolutely
Americans
not.
think that they're voting on, it's not what they're doing. They're interested in their own power.
Yeah.
And your vote is merely one of the little puzzle pieces that they fit together. And we still live in a system which is like largely like an oligarchy in that regard.
Oh, it is very oligarchic.
We live in a power structure where those people have the power, and the Democratic Party, I should say, at their highest echelons, they are willing to give up power for 4 years or longer. Because they never really give it up.
They're playing a long game.
Also, let's not forget the panic of the Republican Party with Trump coming in the first time around.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Republicans were fucking
barely
they
with
did
him.
not want Trump.
No.
Yeah.
There were a number of people that swear by Trump now that were like, he's not a conservative. We shouldn't have Trump in the party.
J.D. Vance.
J.D. Vance called him. J.D. Vance called him Hitler. A number. He straight up did.
He did. I'm laughing because it's true.
Yeah.
You're just quoting.
All right. So we don't have a whole lot of time to touch on this stuff. Election season isn't over for us.
No.
We got a governor election in 2025.
Oh, yeah. Here in New Jersey.
I'm not going to necessarily bore you guys with that one just because it's relatively
benign.
Yeah. Also at the same time, might be just something I do on my own, maybe side content or whatever.
I might join you for that because I have hard opinions about this one. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just like right now we have a few people that are running. Jack Chattarelli.
He's got my vote. That sounds Italian.
I actually do. I have a nickname for him, and we're this far into the podcast, I can say it. Stupid Wop Dago.
Yeah.
I love that.
Dan, I don't know if I'm offended.
You are.
Because you're right.
Because also you are, but you love it.
Yeah,
that's true.
I kind of do embrace the WAP, the WAP slur.
So he's running. There's also like his name is John Kramnik. He's like the Never Trumper in that. Yep. And then they have Bill Spadia.
Yep.
He's the radio host.
He's running.
He's been talking about that for years. Yeah. Like that was his whole platform of his radio show. Yeah.
But like it seems like those are the top three in the Republican primary. In the Democrat Party, what the hell is his name? It's Gottenheimer or whatever.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah. He's an establishment guy.
Yeah. And then you have what? How did she call herself? Mikey? It's like Rebecca, Michelle, fucking.
Why would it be Mikey?
It's weird.
Like it's weird.
Is it like that Peggy Margaret thing? Like why?
I mean, listen, New Jersey's a fucking weird state. Almost always goes blue, but they're talking a lot of shit with the way this
in national elections. Yeah.
With the national election, you had a more broadened, which by the nature of the national.
All right, so I punched this up. Yeah, it is. So it's Mikey Sherrill.
Yeah, Mikey Sherrill.
That's and in
the female.
Yes.
Huh.
In the hypothetical polls that I've seen too, she's leading in both of them. But those were like a while ago. And then we also have the mayor of Newark, who is Ross Baraka.
Ross Baraka.
Nice. Not him, please. And then Stephen Sweeney, who was down when I was going to Glassboro, he was like the representative in that area.
I know that person, yeah.
I think he actually spoke at my commencement that I didn't go to because I don't believe in commencement. I
met that person.
Huh.
And then...
him and Gotts, huh?
And Chris Smith.
Oh, wow.
3 politicians.
That is a bar trip I'd like to take.
No, you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't. It was
so the only point, we'll probably talk about this we'll further on.
Down the road, we will definitely get deep into this.
The one thing that I did want to mention that like John Bramnick is already somebody I can't support because Chris Christie endorsed him.
Yep.
And if Chris Christie endorses you, then you already lost my vote.
We have our own.
So he's
a
non-entity.
Yeah.
He wears his lobster bib everywhere he goes.
As well he should. You don't want to spill all that buttery goodness all over your belly.
Well, much less he showed that he just can't spill his Skittles into another bag.
My God, what a piece of shit!
Wait,
I
don't know this story.
We live in
the bag of Skittles into another bag of Skittles.
Why would you do that?
Because he's a fat man.
Just eat them both, like double fist it, like a beers.
I did that too.
Real quick before we sign off.
Yes,
I did want to kind of take a look over in 2028.
Yeah,
obviously it's a long ways away.
Big time, but absolutely,
Aaron.
He will not be eligible. He's 18 now.
But they're going to change those laws.
So, real quick, I came up with a list of potential candidates, and I'll let you guys react.
Yeah.
And then we'll hit last call.
Yeah.
So, for 2028, these are the people that I'm thinking, and I have like a couple, maybe 1 or 2 dark horses. So, obviously, J.D. Vance, vice president,
absolutely.
He'll run.
Absolutely.
Ron DeSantis, I think, will run again.
Absolutely.
Tulsi Gabbard, I think, will run. She's got a cabinet position.
I think so, yes.
Rand Paul, I'm not convinced on, but I have his name down.
Maybe.
Vivek Ramaswamy, I believe he'll run again.
Absolutely.
Ted Cruz will probably poke his head out again.
Yes.
So what?
He's turtling.
We still got more winter coming.
Yeah.
All right.
Nikki Haley, I think, will give it another go because she actually was, of all the people who ran, performed the best.
No, she's got one more in her at least.
Glenn Youngkin, governor of Virginia, I think will give that a go.
Yeah.
I'm going to split this between Josh Hawley and now Matt Gaetz because he has a cabinet position. So I think one of the 2 of those guys will run.
Yep.
This is kind of like a dark horse. I hope he runs. He probably won't. Thomas Massey probably won't run. But
as far as those goes, I'll jump in
I got
first.
one more.
Lay it on me.
Like complete dark horse. Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah, the guy.
I could definitely see it. I don't know.
We haven't gotten to that.
Of that, but I definitely could see it.
We haven't gotten to that part of Roman history yet.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be J.D. Vance because whoever Trump backs is going to get it, and he clearly chose J.D. Vance.
J.D. Vance,
you don't think he's going to pick his own son?
His eyes are on the prize.
Yeah.
No, I think that Donald Trump is a piece of shit, and no, he won't pick his own son.
And I'm not necessarily convinced that he's a full Trump guy. I think he sees a ticket.
I think that he's the only one of these people who is going to be able to keep his fucking mouth shut for the next 4 years, as Donald Trump does all the things that Donald Trump does. J.D. Vance is the only one who's going to be able to get
I'm going to say my piece on this. I think J.D. Vance, for as weird as he can be, is very smart.
Yeah.
And I think that he's in this for the long term, and he will do what is necessary to get there.
That's what I think is going to happen.
My one thing with J.D. Vance is if this Trump term is a disaster, he's going to have to answer for it.
For sure, for sure. Absolutely.
The Democrats have a stronger chance. I mean, honestly, they're going to, the way in which all of these elections go is that you just vote. You don't vote for who you like. You vote against who's in power.
Hate. Yeah. So I do have a list for Democrats. So you guys
what is your Democratic list?
So number 1,
Newsom.
Gavin Newsom.
Newsom, absolutely.
Number 2, Gretchen Whitmer.
Yep.
3, old Chicklets teeth, Phil Murphy.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck him.
AOC, I think, will run.
AOC definitely.
She's eligible right now, so she'll definitely be eligible then.
She hit age?
Yeah, she's 35. Kathy Hochul, Kathy Hochul, governor of New York.
I don't know so much about her. So,
she took over after Cuomo. Got booted.
Gotcha.
Pete Buttigieg will probably run again.
Of course.
I actually like him.
I do like him too.
He's not good at his job.
No, he isn't.
Doesn't matter. Trump's not good at his job. The fuck does he do?
He's been failing upwards for his entire life.
Who gives a shit?
His qualifications for being Secretary of Transportation is that he likes trains. So
my problem is
gay.
Well, that's how Trump did it. Trump likes being president.
My problem with Buttigieg is that he seems like he's happy to be there.
Yeah, I'll take that.
He's
he's a spritzer. It's a nice refreshing course after all of this.
Shut up.
Mr. Perspire's ooze, Eric Swalwell.
Yeah.
Rashida Tlaib, another member of the squad.
Yes, the squad,
Kristen Gillibrand will run again. She ran last time in, what was that, 2020 or 2016?
2016.
She just won, I think she won a senator seat in New York.
New York, yeah.
Cory Booker declined running for governor of New Jersey because I think he'll run for president.
He saves people from burning buildings.
Well, he doesn't. First of all, he saved animals, and that was, fuck him.
People or animals are people.
You don't need to tell me that. You know that I love animals more than
you're the one talking against.
Both of you shut up, let Dan finish.
And my last dark horse pick, Michelle Obama.
Huh.
I would not be surprised because she's got her own niche following.
Yeah.
Rub-a-dub-dub. Thanks for the grub.
It depends because honestly,
an Obama legacy. The fucking
I look at this. I look at the lineup. And I see a lot of potential.
Oh, for sure.
For her to take that from, because
I'm out.
Who are the tops? Gavin Newsom?
Yeah.
We just lost Moses.
No, it's fine. He's fine. Let him choke on his own.
We were just having fun.
Honestly, yeah. Gavin Newsom, I think AOC is a dark horse to make it to the very end.
She's also got her cult following too.
Yeah.
Is
it as big as Trump's though?
No, we're talking down the road.
Yeah.
Down the road.
And so
it's a whole different game. This is all perspective.
So if Michelle Obama wanted to run, she'd have a really good chance of winning.
I think so.
2028.
Probably,
I think so.
All right, guys. You want to wrap this up?
Yes, this is super fun and disheartening and everything. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, politics.
Fortunately, this should be the last politics episode for a little bit.
Yes.
We're not going to just jump right in all right, January 1st. Let's talk about the New Jersey governor election.
You got to wait for the 6th. That's when we overthrow.
Obviously, going into the new year, we talked about how we're changing format a little bit. And if something crazy happens, we'll probably do an interstitial or a main episode about it. But otherwise, we'll give you a break. Try to be as entertaining as we can. We'll have some fun.
Yeah.
We should play that game on the 15th.
We will.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do about playing a game. And if you want to watch us play whatever game we're going to play, be sure to subscribe to this podcast and leave us a 5-star review. You can check us out on YouTube and Rumble. And if you're on YouTube and Rumble, make sure that you like, comment, share, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our content, no matter how long Rumble takes to tell you that our content is available. You can follow us on social media. We are at Loud and Drunk on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you enjoyed this podcast, and you can become a Loud and Drunk supporter for less than it costs you to get a beer at your local bar at patreon.com/loudanddrunk. Hey, listen, we like doing this podcast, but if you slip us a little something,
we might like a little more.
Maybe we'll make a little bit. Maybe we'll make more content.
And also, like, we keep getting in trouble, so maybe we'll put our trouble some stuff over there.
There are links in the description below for all of these places, but the one that's the most important is loudanddrunk.com. That is our home base. You can catch up on the podcast there, check out some cool merch. Moses is ripe for being harangued.
Email me, nerds.
So, for Justin, Moses, and Pedro, I'm Dan, and until next time, it was the tremendous election, the best election ever.
I wish you could see the accordion.
Yeah, I'm doing the accordion.
It's better than your Obama.